I never imagined I'd be left alone on a hospital bed, mid-contraction. Not by a doctor, not by a nurse, but by the woman I had once vowed to spend my life with. Tanya stood by the doorway like a stranger, arms folded across the designer coat. I bought her last winter. Her lips were a hard, familiar line, one I now recognized as final. "I can't afford to support a jobless man anymore," she said. Her voice was clinical, cold. "Get out." I blinked through sweat, through pain that tore up my spine like fire on a fuse. I thought I misheard her. I thought she was joking, testing me maybe. But then I saw her eyes, the same eyes that once softened when I whispered to our unborn son, now hollow, icy, done. "Tanya, this isn't the time," I managed, gripping the rail as another contraction clawed through me. "Please." But she was already turning, already walking. Her heels clicked against the linoleum, red-bottomed, sharp like her silence. I stared at the spot where she'd stood, still hoping she'd turn back, even as pain swelled and a sob caught in my throat. The door didn't swing back open. It clicked shut. That was the last sound she gave me. The nurse returned moments later, cheerful and oblivious, as if the room hadn't just collapsed into a graveyard. "You're progressing beautifully, Kieran," she said. "We'll have a baby here in no time." I nodded, mouth full of silence. I didn't tell her Tanya had left. I didn't want the sympathy, the pity. I didn't want to become a cautionary tale whispered about during night shifts. I just wanted to survive. For my son. For what could still be. Tanya didn't know. She didn't know that less than 24 hours earlier, I'd inherited $30 million. My uncle, the man who raised me after my parents died, had passed. The grief was fresh, but his final letter was not. He'd planned this for years, left me his entire estate, the accounts, the trust, the company shares. $30 million, and change, enough to never worry again, enough to build a life. Tanya didn't ask how I was doing after he died. Didn't sit with me in the grief. She was too busy asking if I'd applied for new jobs, as if my worth existed only in a paycheck. I had planned to tell her that night after the baby was born. I imagined us holding him together, the hospital room warm and glowing with joy. I had imagined saying, "Everything changes today." But the only thing that changed was that she left before hearing it. Hours passed like fog. My body fought itself. I breathed through it, cried through it. And finally, after an eternity of pain and aloneness, he arrived. Ezra. The room was sterile and humming with quiet victory. The nurse placed him in my arms, wrapped like a miracle, crying like the sky had cracked. I looked down and saw all the love I'd lost, and all the strength I'd need. "Ezra," I whispered. It sounded ancient, powerful. He blinked up like he understood. Still no Tanya. "Is your wife coming back in?" the nurse asked gently. "She won't be," I said. And that was all. I held Ezra longer than I needed. 2. Memorized the curl of his hair, the way his fingers clutched mine. I changed his diaper with shaking hands, held him skin to skin like they'd taught in class. And I made a promise. We'd be just fine. I didn't know what the coming days would look like, how many nights I'd cry, or how often I'd hear her words echo in my head. But I knew one thing. I had him. He had me. And Tanya? Tanya had nothing but her absence. The paperwork came later. "Father's name?" the nurse asked. "Kieran Ashcraft-Oft," I said clearly. "Mother?" I paused. "Just mine, please." She hesitated, then nodded. No fanfare, no balloons, just ink, silence, and a baby who deserved better. Later, she asked if I wanted to call anyone. I shook my head. The only one who needed to know was asleep on my chest, brave and breathing. Tanya walked out, and that's when my life began. Just to watch Ezra sleep, I closed my eyes at 1951, let the exhaustion wash over me, whispered one more promise. I won't let him need you, because he won't. He has me, and I have him. The woman who left us mid-contraction didn't just walk out of a hospital room. She walked out on the best parts of her own life. And I wouldn't let her walk back in. The labor room felt surreal, bright, sterile, artificial, like I'd been dropped into a play, left waiting in the wings while the spotlight blazed down, merciless. The walls were a dull gray, but under fluorescent light, they glowed with a cold indifference. Machines beeped in rhythm, wires coiled around my body, but I didn't notice any of it. All I felt was the hollow Tanya had left behind. The pain wasn't just physical, it came from the vacuum of her absence. Nurses came and went, adjusting, monitors, offering soft encouragement, mistaking the tightness in my throat for pain, not grief. They asked how I was holding up. I nodded, whispered fine. Nothing about it was fine. The hours dragged. I kept glancing at the door, instinct or some diluted hope that maybe, just maybe, she'd return, that she'd rush in, breathless, apologizing, claiming she'd panicked, that she'd take my hand and whisper, "Let's bring our baby into the world together." But the door never opened for her again. Wave after wave of pain hit. Sweat soaked my skin. The nurse, Claire, I think, offered. A smile. "You're doing amazing. Baby's almost here." I nodded, breath short, heart heavy. I pushed, and when I had nothing left to give, silence. Then the cry. Ezra's cry. It split the sterile air, raw, beautiful, alive, a sound that broke through every ache. Claire laid him on my chest, warm, slick, perfect. He trembled, slightly, adjusting to this world. And when his cheek brushed my skin, everything else fell quiet. He was mine, born into a world missing one parent. But he had me. That would be enough. "Hi," I whispered, choking on tears I didn't know I'd held. "Hi, little one. You made it." His tiny fingers brushed my chest. His barely opened eyes flickered with something ancient, like he already understood more than I did. "I'm sorry. She's not here," I said. "But I am. And I'm not going anywhere." Nurses moved around us, their quiet efficiency born of having seen too many beginnings, too many walkouts. No one asked about Tanya again. Maybe they'd guessed, or maybe they'd seen too many ghost pregnancies to expect abandonment to come from the mother. Later, when things calmed, I changed Ezra's diaper for the first time. My hands trembled. All the classes and videos hadn't prepared me for how delicate it would feel, how real. His legs kicked, his mouth yawned, and I laughed softly. I did it. Not perfectly, but I did it. I swaddled him the best I could and sat in the recliner, Ezra tucked against my chest, his tiny breaths slowing into sleep. I studied every part of him, his swirl of hair, the dimple in his chin, the slight furrow in his brow like he already had questions for the world. "You won't remember this," I murmured. "But I will." I wanted to be angry, wanted to rage, to curse, to scream. But I didn't. Holding Ezra, I felt clarity. Tanya hadn't just left, she had spared him, spared us. She removed herself before her absence could teach him resentment. A nurse brought the birth certificate. "Do you want to list the mother's name?" I stared at the form. Name of child, Ezra Ashcraftoft father, Kieran James Ashcraftoft mother, blank. She didn't earn the space. The nurse paused, then nodded. No judgment, just quiet understanding. I looked out the window. City lights shimmered like stars fallen just to watch Ezra sleep. I closed my eyes, whispered again, "I won't let him need you." Because he won't. He has me, and I have him. She had walked out on everything good, and I wasn't letting her walk back in. The next morning, just as the sky turned pink, Tanya returned. No tears, no apologies, no remorse. Just a coffee from the downstairs cafe, sunglasses on her head, perfume I didn't recognize trailing behind her like a signature. The scent hit first, strong, floral, expensive. Then the smirk, the one she used when she thought she had the upper hand. But she wasn't alone. Behind her stood a man, tall, clean-cut, dressed like a magazine ad. Navy suit, polished loafers, no tie, gold watch gleaming on his wrist, my watch. The one Tanya gave me last year for my birthday. The one I wore to our anniversary dinner. Now it clung to this stranger's wrist like a declaration. I didn't flinch, didn't speak. Ezra slept in my arms, breaths rising and falling against my chest. Tanya sipped her coffee. Wow, you look better than I expected. I said nothing. She glanced at Ezra, shrugged. Cute. Still, I stayed silent. Then she gestured to the man beside her. This is my husband, Liam. My what? Liam gave a stiff nod. His eyes flicked between me and the baby. He looked uneasy. We got married yesterday, Tanya added casually. Quick courthouse thing. Very low-key. My stomach didn't twist. My throat didn't close. I just looked at her. Really looked. And finally, I saw her clearly. The cruelty beneath the gloss, the hollowness behind the performance. Ezra stirred slightly, let out a small breath. It grounded me. Then Liam's eyes locked on mine. He froze. Wait, he said slowly. You're my CEO, Kieran Ashcroft. Tanya blinked. What are you talking about? Liam turned to her. You said your ex was some broke tech guy. You never said he owned Ashcroft Holdings? She looked at me, stunned. He is your boss, I said quietly. Technically your husband's boss now, although probably not for much longer. Liam stepped back, pale. This can't be right. Oh, it's very right. I nodded. I was going to tell her about the inheritance after Ezra was born. But she walked out before I had the chance. Tanya looked like she'd seen a ghost she hadn't finished burying. I stood, adjusting Ezra in my arms. He blinked up at the room, then nestled closer. You married my intern, I said, gesturing toward Liam. Nice choice. Liam looked like he wanted to evaporate. Tanya flushed, scrambling for her old control. Well, maybe if you had been a real man and kept a job, I cut her off with a quiet, firm tone. You left me. During labor. Tone and voice. The voice is calm but fierce, measured, not melodramatic, which makes the emotional moments hit harder. Structure. The progression from heartbreak to healing, from confrontation to resolution, is strong. Each chapter of action, hospital scene, legal steps, home reclamation, mirrors emotional closure. Characterization. Kieran is portrayed as stoic but not cold, driven but not vindictive. His development is evident, especially in how he chooses focus over fury. Opportunities for improvement, length and flow. This is long, close to short story, or novella territory. If intended for a novel or script, it's excellent. If you're aiming for a standalone short story or post, some tightening would help. Dialogue, tags, and pacing. Occasionally, adding small beats to longer dialogue exchanges would help anchor the reader, e.g., gestures, facial expressions. Name spelling. Consistency. Minor detail. Ashcraft-oft versus Ashcroft. If Ashcraft-oft is intentional, make sure it's consistently used throughout. Final thought. This could be a compelling chapter in a longer story, or even the backbone of a novel about fatherhood, betrayal, and rebuilding life with integrity. You've created a protagonist who wins not by rage, but by reason. In the end, only one question mattered. Did he feel safe? Did he feel loved? Tanya could try whatever legal gymnastics she wanted. She could wear white in court, cry on cue, spin her story to make me the villain, but she could never rewrite what happened. She didn't just walk away. She walked away while I was breaking open to bring our son into the world. No court in this country would forget that. The courtroom was colder than I expected, not in temperature, but in energy. Clinical. White walls, smooth benches, beige carpet. No one was there for justice. They were there for process, for performance. A stage dressed in legal language. I sat on the left, Ezra's stroller beside me. He was bundled in a navy blanket with cartoon stars dozing peacefully. Oblivious, or maybe wiser than the rest of us, not letting on that the air around him crackled with tension. Tanya sat across the room. I hadn't seen her since the hospital, the day I called security to escort her and Liam out. Now she sat. In a cream suit too bright for a custody hearing, pearls in her ears, expression carefully rehearsed. But she wasn't looking at me. She was looking at Ezra, like she was about to ask for something she'd never earned. The judge entered. Formalities. Petitioner Kieran Ashcraftoft seeks full legal and physical custody of the minor child, Ezra James Ashcraftoft. I said clearly. Present, Tanya echoed, voice syrup sweet. Thomas, my attorney, stood beside me. Calm. Finch, hers, rose first. He spun the story. Postpartum stress, fear, confusion. She was overwhelmed, he said. She returned within 24 hours. That is not abandonment. It is humanity. The judge, silver streaks in her hair, eyes tired but sharp, nodded. Listening, not believing. Then it was our turn. Thomas stood, measured, precise. What the respondent calls a temporary absence was the desertion of her partner in active labor, he said. No emergency, no trauma, only a statement. I can't afford to support a jobless man anymore. She left mid-contraction, returned married to another man. That is not stress, Thomas finished. That is abandonment. Tanya's face faltered, slightly. He continued. Hospital footage, nurse testimony, a marriage license dated just 23 hours after Ezra's birth. Then Thomas turned to me. I stood. I was alone when my son was born, I said. She walked, out while I was crying through contractions. I cut the cord myself. I fed him, changed him, named him. She wasn't there, not emotionally, not legally, not physically. She made her choice. I've made mine. I'm not keeping Ezra from his mother. I'm protecting him from a stranger. The judge nodded. She asked the clerk to roll the footage. Black and white security footage filled the monitor. There I was, bent over, clutching my side in a hospital gown. Tanya by the door, her face unreadable. Then she turned, walked away. Timestamp, 37 minutes before Ezra was born. Silence thickened the room. When the lights returned, Tanya was crying. Her lawyer placed a hand on her shoulder. She dabbed her eyes with a lace handkerchief, but her tears weren't remorse. They were performance. I made a mistake, she said through sobs. I was scared. I thought he wouldn't forgive me. But I came back. Doesn't that count for something? The judge leaned forward. Mrs. Ashcraftoft, returning with a new spouse does not display remorse. It displays closure on your terms. But parenting is not about terms. It's about consistency, reliability, and sacrifice. She turned to me. Have you provided continuous care since the child's birth? Yes, Your Honor. Do you have the means to support him emotionally, physically, and financially? Yes. Do you object to supervised visitation for the mother under future review? No. Ezra deserves truth and choice, but he deserves stability. First. The judge nodded. Then here is the court's decision. No pause, no deliberation. In the matter of custody for Ezra James Ashcraftoft, full legal and physical custody is awarded to the petitioner, Mr. Kieran Ashcraftoft. Visitation rights to the respondent, Mrs. Tanya Ashcraftoft shall be supervised and reviewed quarterly. This ruling stands unless new evidence is presented showing sustained involvement and emotional consistency. Gavel, final. Tanya crumbled. No one moved to comfort her, not her lawyer, not a friend, not Liam. He wasn't even there. I didn't watch her cry. I turned to Ezra, just waking with a soft yawn. I knelt beside him and whispered, "We're going home now." In the hallway, reporters waited. Not for me, for Tanya. The footage had leaked. The story was already a headline. Mother walks out on husband mid-labor. I didn't speak. I just walked past, Ezra in one arm, dignity in the other. I wasn't angry. I wasn't triumphant. I was free. 3 months later, we moved to the coast. Just us. No lawyers, no whispers, no traces of Tanya's perfume. We found a house with white shutters, a wraparound porch, and creaky floors. It wasn't perfect. It was real. Ours. That first night, I wrapped a blanket around my shoulders and sat on the porch listening to the sea. I thought of my uncle. "You left me everything. I finally know what to do with it." I didn't touch most. Of the $30 million, I didn't need to. I used a portion to build something instead. The Ashcraftoft Foundation, 2 towns over. A non-profit for single fathers, underserved caregivers, and young parents abandoned by those who broke when life asked for strength. We offered housing, legal aid, support groups, job re-entry. I showed up every week, not for photos, for the stories. Because I remembered that panic in their eyes. Ezra grew fast. By 6 months, he was already babbling, laughing, a sound that healed. At 10 months, he walked the shoreline barefoot, chasing gulls, fists full of sand and treasure. That night, sunset poured gold into the sea. I sat nearby as Ezra giggled through the breeze. "You saved me, boy," I said. "You gave me a reason to be calm. Maybe the tide heard me. Maybe the universe does listen once we stop shouting." Ezra returned with a seashell clutched like treasure. I scooped him up. "I don't care what they say," I murmured. "You are the best thing that ever happened to me. No one gets to rewrite that." Back home, I tucked him into bed, read him a book, sang a lullaby my uncle once hummed to me. Then I opened the journal I'd started the day Tanya left and turned to the last page. He smiled at the waves tonight. My son, my heartbeat. I'm not healing anymore. I'm whole. I closed it, placed it beside photos of Ezra's firsts. First bottle, first beach, first laugh. No photos of Tanya, just the truth. And as I turned off the lights and stepped into the quiet of our coastal home, I felt it. Not relief, not justice, peace. The kind you don't wait for. The kind you build with your own hands after someone walks out on you mid-contraction. The kind you earn when you choose to rise. Quietly, steadily, completely. Ezra stirred in his sleep. I leaned over, kissed his forehead. "I'm here," I whispered. "Always." And this time there was no door waiting to close behind me. Just one wide open, facing the sea.